In studio, Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith.
Good morning, Chad.
Welcome
How
back.
are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a Lubbock City Council meeting going on tomorrow night. And obviously, it's been a while since I've had Lubbock City Council member on the show, and obviously there's a lot of stuff going on that we can get to. Let's go ahead and start off with the big issue, or at least one of the big issues, and that is the Auditorium Coliseum. That is coming up on the May 5th ballot to abandon the Coliseum Auditorium, hand that back over to Texas Tech University. I took a tour along with Matt Martin, yourself, and Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson. We took a tour of the facilities on Friday. Saw how bad things are inside the facilities. That was also the day where this equestrian complex was sort of announced
Yes.
over near the airport. So kind of tell us where we are right now and what your thinking is on this Coliseum Auditorium and on this equestrian center.
Chad, the big thing, in my opinion, is that the city we've had a marvelous run with Auditorium Coliseum. It served us very well for decades. The financials prove that it is not a good business model, because even if we updated it, it doesn't guarantee us any more event usage. With Buddy Holly Hall coming online in 2020, I should say. I almost said 1920, didn't I? 2020, the use of Auditorium, our data shows we're not going to increase. And of course, hey, people forget, we've actually redone the theater at the Lubbock Memorial Civic Center,
Right.
which is an excellent facility. So we really have two facilities there that can take as far as the business, I should say, from the auditorium component. The Coliseum, to your point, there's definitely still a need, not necessarily from basketball or from a concert venue, because it was really never – it was okay for concerts, but it really wasn't designed for concert. The Spirit Arena has taken the big concert business.
Right.
But the Dirt Event Center that you mentioned, and that is a concern for all of us, city, county, Texas Tech University. We all understand the need for that. And to go forward with a real Dirt Event Center, the Coliseum was never meant for rodeo. It's adapted well. And we've had ongoing discussions. I've met with rodeo folks this week, and that's one option, is the one that was announced by Texas Tech Architecture, the design of that out by the airport.
Are there going to be other options, you think?
I think we'll continue to look and analyze what the exact and let's drill down and get to what that facility should be to make sure that we're going to get what the need is for Dirt Event.
I've had some listeners who have asked, some questions about, selling the Auditorium and Coliseum to Texas Tech. I know that can't happen because of the state legislature, how it's written. That's a law. Unfortunately, we can't. If we could sell it, our discussion changes dramatically. To your point, it is state law and city charter. Yeah, so you can't do that. What about, and I've had a few people ask questions, has the city ever looked into having a private firm come in and manage the Auditorium and Coliseum?
The thought has been there. We've never done a true study on that, at least in my almost 4 years. But
have y'all ever been approached by anybody about taking that over?
We have about the Civic Center,
okay,
which could parlay into that. But even if you still have a management firm come in there, the real deal is they're going to say, hey, this facility needs to be updated.
Right.
If you're really going to want us to bring more events in and to be able to get those events. And there again, we go back to the Auditorium. We have two facilities, one current and one under construction, that are going to take that business. But as far as management, that has actually been approached for the Civic Center.
Yeah, but it comes down to money and renovations.
It has to be people, and you were there, you've seen it, and spoke about it. And the big thing is that it's not ADA. We've got a real serious roof issue. We've got HVAC issues literally we're at 30% in part of the building. Yeah.
So how much would it cost overall, would you anticipate, if voters say we're not going to, if voters turn it down and say we don't want to hand it back over to Texas Tech, and let's say in the future a city council were to say, okay, let's renovate the Auditorium Coliseum. I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say a council does say, let's renovate the Auditorium Coliseum. How much do you anticipate that would cost?
I'm not a construction manager, but Chad, in my opinion, the estimates I've seen are from anywhere from about $15 million up to $25 million. Putting elevators at each end of the Coliseum is a task upon its own.
Right.
The roof is about a $3 million repair because of the style of roof. When I say repair, redo and complete undertaking. The other aspect, as far as the mechanical, the HVAC, to get it efficient, to get it really usable, I would say between 15 and 25 million. I know it's a wide range, and I apologize, but that's the best I can.
And that still leaves the city in the entertainment business. And I know you and I have talked off air about this, and I'm sure you've mentioned it on air when you were on with Matt and Dave. You want the city out of the entertainment business.
I don't think we do very well at it. And to your point, I think that it's, there's others that do it well. Buddy Holly Hall is going to be a good example of that, I believe. And is that the city's job to be in the entertainment business? And we kind of are, with parks and recreation, with library, we have swimming pools.
Right.
We have senior citizen center. So we have museums. So in reality, we are in the entertainment business. And but I think that the city's really not the best entity to do that.
Maybe not the best major venue entertainment industry.
Yes, thank you.
So this new development that is being talked about, I know it's not 100%. It's not 100% go yet. Where is that? Where you think there's a 30% chance this is going to happen, a 50% chance? Where would you kind of, off of conversations you've had, how likely is this event center going to happen?
And I have met with two of the developers. I do think that it's going to happen. I think it's a timing issue that we're looking at because they've increased the size of their development. They've owned the property for 10 years.
Right.
So this plan has come together, and they've increased the plan with the charter school, equestrian charter school, and more single-family dwellings. So it's really become a whole community, if you will. Mm-hmm. And there's multifamily planned, retail planned. So with those components, it takes a long time to really make that happen. Let's be brutally honest.
Right.
It is not, Chad, in my opinion, going to happen. To answer your real question, I think it's a 50-50 chance that it happens in the next 5 years.
The arena being built or the overall plan?
I think it'll take 10 to 15 for the full residential component to come out there. We're one of the largest cities in the United States that does not have a environment like this, community like this, around their airport. If you think about when you go to other cities, and I know you travel a lot, you've seen when you fly in and there's lots of retail, there's shopping and hotels, and these guys have planned a major hotel into the right there as you come into there off MLK and Regis, which is fantastic, something needed for our city and our visitation.
So 5 years until an arena is built.
I'm ballparking you, but yes, I would say that it could be up to that.
Okay.
Again.
So what happens?
They're not totally funded.
What happens with the rodeo and what happens with a dirt? I mean, because that's the big thing on that I've heard from listeners is what's going to happen with everything up until a new thing is built. They want a plan. So
absolutely.
So what's going to happen, you think?
And that's the reason we're continuing to have. We had discussions earlier this week, and will continue to investigate and drill down on the needs. So you've got different entities, city, county, Texas Tech University, of course.
Right.
Is big in this, but we have others, but the main thing is that you've got to ensure that the rodeo is going to happen, and we know it's going to happen next year. Texas Tech's already made that announcement. So if this vote does go through, beyond that, that's why we're working fast, and we're trying to drill down on this.
I imagine Texas Tech, they want to be helpful. They want to work with you guys, but they're also looking at their long-term plans. And, if it takes 5 years to build an arena, I can only imagine Texas Tech says, well, that's 5 years. Then we're going to have to knock down these buildings, and you're looking at maybe 7 years before they get their dorms built. If they wait that long.
Good point. And so we're still battling timetable here. There's no doubt. And folks need to understand that the listeners need to understand we are battling a timetable, but we're committed to – I think all the entities are committed to not just analyze, but actually make it happen.
Visiting with Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith here on the Chad Hasty Show. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we will take your phone calls, your questions for Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith. We've also got a lot of other issues to get into. We're not just going to talk about the Coliseum and Auditorium today. There's a lot of stuff going on in the city of Lubbock that we'll get to, but we will take your calls on the Coliseum Auditorium in the next segment. Then we're going to move on to some other issues. We'll be right back. Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith here in studio, continuing to talk about Lubbock City Council issues, and we've got a lot more to get into other than the Coliseum Auditorium, but we will take some calls real quick and get your questions on the air for Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith. First person up, Vince. Vince, you're on KFYO.
How y'all doing this morning?
Doing great, Vince. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Okay. Now, what was the last estimate that it cost us to go ahead and keep the Coliseum and Auditorium on the payroll on as far as what it cost us, the city? Was that like $75,000, or how much was that?
Vince, as far as our real cost after the revenue, Texas Tech pays some rent, and of course there's some events scheduled, like the rodeo. The actual was $593. We were in upside down. The city was $593,000 in the last year's budget.
Okay.
This year it's $628,000 is what the number could be, but due to lack of revenue.
Okay. Well, I heard earlier that Skubanek, Mr. Skubanek said that we were actually paying the university money just to go ahead and have the rights to have events at the event. Well, at the Coliseum and Auditorium. Is that correct?
Well, there is a component where the city does pay Texas Tech, to President Skovanek's point, and that's actually part of a STEAM utility contract. As far as rent, Texas Tech University pays the city some rent on the parking lot and the use of the Coliseum for athletics. And
so, what? Well, in that case, what is the percentage of? Because Texas Tech could be making a profit off this for the past 30, 40, 50 years, and the city's been paying for it, and now they want to go ahead and take it over because it is on their land.
It's on our land. It's the city owns the land and Texas Tech University pays the city approximately $80,000 for the parking lot between Jones Stadium and the Auditorium, that big, sizable parking lot for student parking. There's a contract that's been in place for decades on that and is not amendable. The contract that the university pays, and I see what you're saying, but we actually own the land. The city owns the land and the buildings. So Texas Tech does pay into the city part of the cost, but it is not amendable, really. Their athletic contract, Vince, is.
All right, let's go back to the phones. And Tim, you're on with Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith.
Hi, how are y'all doing this morning?
Doing great, Tim. What's your question?
Excellent. Well, it's kind of a continuation of the last caller. If the citizens vote to basically turn the facilities back over to Tech, that $593,000 to $628,000 that y'all were discussing, which line items in the city budget are going to get reduced by that amount so that the citizens will know that that is no longer being accounted for in the budget?
Great question, Tim. And I've got the numbers in front of Mr. Hasty and I. As far as these, let's say this 593, as far as it being turned back and just not utilized, first of all, about 300,000 of that, about half of it, is actual labor and employee cost. And remember, some of that, when we have events, we have to have the fire department there. So there's fire staff, not just maintenance staff. There is utility cost of approximately 200. It's a little over 200,000. I'm just giving you guess. There's a lot of line items here, but our major costs are employees that staff it. It's a big facility, and there's a lot of upkeep to get them ready. But utility cost is very high too because it's so outdated and it's so inefficient. Just the cool down stage, our cost of utilities is over $200,000.
So overall, and Tim, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Let's say the cost of labor and the cost of utilities. Is the cost of labor going to go down or be eliminated? In other words, are people going to lose their jobs because of this, or what's going to happen there?
We hope through attrition in other departments that these folks can be continued employed at their city positions. So those folks will they can be used at Civic Center, but through attrition, we believe that that's our plan. That's the city manager's plan. We hope that's what works out.
That's where the money savings on that end will be.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the big savings will be through the utilities.
Utility, insurance, and the elimination of it's going to continue to get worse. If this vote doesn't go through, I don't think you're going to see councils, in my opinion, I don't think I can justify spending money on these facilities. So we'll continue to spiral downward as far as usage and efficiency.
So if voters vote this down, basically you're just going to have two pretty empty buildings that are going to be sitting there for a while.
They can still be utilized. It's just not. It's going to be difficult.
Right. 770-5790, toll free, 1-800-687-0790. As we go to break, want to remind you to make the switch to ABC Bank, American Bank of Commerce, like we have done, where they can help you when it comes to a home mortgage, when it comes to lending. They're on your side over at American Bank of Commerce. Visit their website today at theabcbank.com. That's theabcbank.com. Proud sponsors of the Chad Hasty Show. When we come back, we have much more to get into with Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith when we come back. Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith in studio. And, Councilman, there's a lot of other things. We can probably spend an hour on the Coliseum Auditorium, but there are a lot of other things going on in the city of Lubbock. And one of the things that y'all are going to talk about, I believe, tonight, annexation. And this has been a heated topic for citizens in the county, citizens in the city. What is the overall plan for Lubbock as far as annexation goes?
This, I hope this, in my personal opinion, I hope this is one of the last pieces. I mean, the city's going to continue to grow.
Right.
But it's a very tender thing when it's involuntary, and because I believe in personal property rights, and so we're doing the best that we can to ensure the growth of the city is done properly. Chad, to your real question, at the same time, we're infringing on folks' farmland,
right,
and residences. So it's a very serious topic, to your point, and very controversial. So we're continuing to meet with people and continue to redraw maps.
For those who are going to be annexed in to the city, what do their futures look like? You know, if they've got farm animals, if they've got horses, if they've got whatever. I know there was some discussion about how, well, if you got 3 horses, you can only have 3 horses, you know, from here on out, only 3 horses. You can't go and get a cow, put a cow on your land. You can't do that. What is that still going to be set up that way as far as those who are going to be annexed in, or has there been some discussion about changing that up?
I think there is discussion about a rural residential component to this where folks are continued to have their large animals. And so we're working through that. We're looking at options that allow them to continue that lifestyle. And, think about it. Everybody knows or listeners may have a kiddo that's got a school project farm animal. You know, you may not have it today, but your child may be raising a pig
right
for class.
Yeah.
So there's so many things to consider with this, and I think that's out of respect to folks in the ag. We were talking about ag a while ago. We've got to make sure that these folks are listened to, and hopefully there's some modification.
Well, one of the other questions that I get when we talk about annexation is city services, the police, fire. That as Lubbock expands, are we going to need to expand fire? Are we going to need to expand the police presence? I know we have the right amount of officers for what Chief Stevens has wanted. Does that change with the annexation moving forward? Water as well. Do we have enough services basically right now to handle the extra land that we're annexing?
Great question. All that is being studied during this, and I've had meetings with police administration, fire administration, and yes, that is a change that folks, if they get annexed, would see is, of course, police and eventually fire. There's not necessarily hydrants in those areas. There's no hydrants in those areas. So future development as that fire protection is available. But for a lot of folks, back to your real question, they're really not going to see many changes.
Right.
Except their tax bill.
Which they're probably not happy about that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
good point.
So what is the argument? Is there a real selling point when you're talking to folks who are about to be annexed? Because I know the mayor before has tried to give the big sell. Hey, it's great. You're going to be in the city. You're going to get this, 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 and this. Is it? Does anyone buy it?
Some do.
Yeah.
Some want this. I mean, you hear from folks that don't want to be annexed. We also hear from businesses and folks that do want to be annexed. So I wouldn't say it's 50-50 even in my case, what the folks I've listened to. But adaptability is important in this, and I think that's where some of these more ag use exemptions or conditions can be brought into play. There's some parts of this that I don't agree with at all as far as the original map drawings. So my goodness, I've redrawn maps till I actually can draw a straight line for a few inches, Chad.
You've seen where the legislature this past year, they went in and they looked at large counties, large cities, Austin, Dallas, Tarrant County, and they said, okay, you can't just go in and annex land. You can't do that. You either have to vote or they have to petition you. If the legislature were to do that for counties our size or cities our size. What would you think about that?
I'm fine with it. I think this is eventually going to happen. Next session, I think there's a good chance this happens. So that's the reason my original comment. This may be the last one we see, but I do think that's probably.
But you wouldn't be opposed to that if our state reps came up to you and said, "Councilman, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. What are your thoughts?"
I'm not gonna. I've actually had some discussion with them on this, but and it may or may not happen.
Right.
I don't always read the tea leaves, right, as they say. But we have, Chad, a great growing city, and there are needs to control our corridors, and you really want to get ahead of the growth. There's no doubt about it, but eventually, I think that petitioned annexation will be the future.
When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO. Sometimes during the breaks, we like to have a little bit of fun around here. Let's see. This portion of the show brought to you by my friends at Robert Lance Jewelers. Hey, this weekend they have the a great trunk event, Constantino Jewelry. They're just a beautiful jewelry line over at Robert Lance Jewelers. Starts at 10 a.m. We'll visit with Becky a little bit later on this week. But that's where you want to head this weekend if you're looking for a great Mother's Day present, you're looking for a great anniversary, birthday gift, Robert Lance Jewelers. They're going to take care of you.
I have to give kudos to Robert Rogers, who is highlighted by the Lubbock Arts Festival, that is obviously one of the partners in Robert Lance Jewelers, Chad, and a phenomenal artist himself.
Yeah. And
kudos to him.
Yeah, they've done such a beautiful job over there. They can custom make your jewelry. If you're looking for some of the best jewelry lines in Lubbock, it's at Robert Lance Jewelers, 82nd and Slide Road. All right, we continue our conversation with Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith here on the Chad Hasty Show. And Councilman, we'll get to one agenda item here in a little bit, but another agenda item is having to deal with this Civic Center hotel possibility. Tell us where we are on this, and so far what your thinking is on a hotel, I guess, basically attached to the Civic Center.
It has to be within 1,000 foot of the Civic Center to be able to be funded as a public-private partnership. If this were to happen, I recommended, and thank goodness that this is actually going to happen, that I'm not necessarily have not made a decision on the Civic Center hotel project as far as the city's involvement in that. I think the studies have been done on that. But to me, Chad, a more important study is, yes, you could build a hotel next to the Civic Center, but does that really help the Civic Center? Or is the Civic Center facilities proper? And then you go, oh, we built a hotel, but, oh, the Civic Center is not right. So I'm not trying to add cost to this. What my recommendation was to make sure and do an analysis of the Civic Center and all the meeting spaces that we have. Remember that the Civic Center was built in the 70s. So it's still a great facility, but I just want to don't do an analysis just on a hotel. Let's see what the Civic Center can be or should be if you were to build this. And I'm not always one of those that build it and they will come attitude kind of guys.
So what would be the reason in doing a public-private partnership? Why would this benefit the citizens?
It's pretty similar to what the Overton Hotel is. The city owns the meeting space in the Overton Hotel. So it'd be a similar usage, if you will, kind of an expansion of Civic Center.
And how would the citizen, like what citizen money would be used for this? It
would be hotel, motel, tax dollars, but you'd end up bonding the money. Probably $15 to $18 million would be the city's participation in the entire hotel campus, if you will. So Parking is an issue there, but the future of our civic centers, we've got a great civic center, but does this beg it to change the type of usage? Civic center is for the citizens of Lubbock.
Right.
Yes, we have conventions there, and we've got a lot of good conventions there, but does this envelope you into the convention center category? And if that is a possibility to where our visitor, people don't realize that we're the 11th largest city in the state of Texas, the 7th most visited city in the state. And so we do have a very good Visit Lubbock program, and we're doing great with that. I'm really proud of tourism dollars in this city. But this begs that question, do we want it to be a convention center eventually and have a bigger draw?
Because that would cost money to renovate the entire.
Here
we
go again, just like Coliseum.
Right. So is that something that if it's going to cost, let's say I'm going to throw out a ballpark, $20 million, $40 million, however much to renovate the Civic Center, if you build a hotel that says, forget about the hotel, we don't want the hotel because we're going to have to spend more money, because then you're talking about a $60 million project almost.
Yes. And let's go back to the hotel part of it, if you will. Chad, we've had a lot of hotels built in this city in the past 5 years.
That's why I was going to ask you, does there really need to be the city involvement to build a downtown hotel when you have hotels going up already?
Great. You ask a perfect question. This begs more investigation again on this civic.
But you're
center.
not sold either way on this?
No.
Okay. When we come back, we will wrap up today's interview with Lubbock City Councilman. We're good. We don't have another break?
No more breaks.
Good. Okay. So let me ask you about this then. The bike share programs. What is this? This has appeared on the agenda item. No one has talked about it other than me, noticing it in other cities. Austin has a bike share program. Dallas has a bike share program that everyone seems to hate. So what is this bike share program that's on your agenda tonight?
I'll be brutally honest, Chad. I do not know. I'm going to find out tomorrow at our work session, because I saw this on there, but I don't know anything about it. I plead total ignorance. And by the way, as you can tell, I don't even own a bicycle.
Right.
So this is not the kind of bike share program that you and I want.
So you have no idea if the bike share, is this something that the city's going to do, or if it's other companies?
I have
like
no
in
idea.
Dallas. For those who don't know, they have a bike share program in Dallas where it's these bright green bikes that you can get on an app, and you can just basically unlock the bike and you can go biking around if you want to. And they had a problem with people who would just do practical jokes and put the bikes in people's yards and just leave them there, and then you could go and pick up the bikes. And so is that kind of what we might be?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I will tell you that I have seen exactly what you're speaking of in Dallas recently. And I don't know. This will be interesting to see. I have no idea if this is a proposal or just what bike share programs are in other cities.
Okay. One other thing.
Great question.
Before we wrap it up, I saw an agenda item about Atmos Energy and rates on that. Is that something you are going to be discussing tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay.
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow night.
Yes, and hopefully a positive, not a negative.
Okay, so we're hopefully going to bring down
Yes.
the rates a little bit.
Hopefully.
All right. Rob Snyder has a question for you real quick.
Well, speaking of bikes and bike lanes, has the city done any traffic studies on the section of Broadway that had the bike lanes added earlier this year to see if there's been a negative impact on traffic flow or anything like that?
Great question, Rob. I don't think we've had a negative impact. At first we heard about some of that. I think the usage has increased. I've heard the usage has increased. But you know what we've also increased? Our homeless population around there. And so this is a concern that we had people biking, and some of our homeless folks, bless their hearts, were involved with those bike riders. So actually, I heard from some of the bike riders. So it's brought another problem to the table that we need to address.
Councilman Jeff Griffith, as always, appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming in today. I know y'all are going to have a busy, busy night, and probably there'll probably be some opinions thrown out tomorrow
I'm sure
night.
there will.
Hey, are y'all going to allow anybody to clap tomorrow night, by the way? If anyone wants to clap or anything, are y'all going to?
The mayor does a good job controlling the room.
We're going to leave it there, huh? Going to leave that one alone. All right.
Hey, thanks for having me, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Lubbock City Councilman Jeff Griffith, thank you to everybody for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.